This is going to be a demonstration to highlight how to actually start programming here at Tech Campus. If you're doing this at home, it's going to be slightly different. Quick reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you consider using the speed controls, open captions. And if you miss something, just go back 10 seconds and rewatch it. It's all there for you to be a resource. In the lab, when you go to start Microsoft Visual Studio, it's going to be the 2019 version, which if you're installing this at home, the Visual Studio that is, you may end up with a newer version. It should be very, very similar. What I'm going to type in here is the first three letters VIS for Visual Studio. And when you find Visual Studio 2019, that's what you're going to open. If you're not logged in yet, it will ask you to log in. As a quick reminder, when you go to log in, you're going to want to include your student ID number, such as the format 123456 @student.techcampus.org. It's the same password we gave you when you showed up. Make sure that you remember to save your work on your H drive, which is the same one as that drive letter. And actually, what we'd like you to do is set up a folder called programs to hold your programs, because you're going to have more than one thing. I'm going to show you how to start up for the first time, how to choose the proper options, a brief example, and some commentary about the parts. All right, so let's take a look at that. That's what the plan is. I'm going to save this. So once you are logged in for this class in our beginning parts of C++, you'll notice over on the right-hand side of the screen that it has an option to create a new project. What I'm going to do is click on that option now. And as a quick point, the software we're using, Visual Studio 2019, allows people to do, among other things, C++, but if you don't pay attention to this and you end up with all languages, it could be very easy to confuse which template you want to start with. So I suggest you use this drop-down box and filter by our programming language, which C++ is just below C#, which looks like a hashtag. So make sure you do that. And as far as platforms, we're going to be using Windows for our platform, and that will skinny down your list quite a bit. And what we're looking for is called a console application. I see it on the screen right here. And you'll notice in this instance, it's got a black box around it with some white letters. And I just want to make sure you understand C++ is the language, Windows is what we call the target platform, and console is the type. Notice also it's going to print hello world. So when I click on that option, I should see at the bottom of the screen the option to continue. And my screen is snapped in kind of a weird way. There we go. I'm going to get to the next button right over here in the right-hand corner. And at this point, it's asking me, well, where do you want to save this thing and what are you going to call it? I've already changed this, but if you click on the drop-down box, you're going to find your H drive, or the one that's got your drive letter. If you're a student, it won't necessarily show you H. And within your H drive, I want you to set up a folder called Programs. I think I called mine Programs 2021 just to kind of simulate that, keep myself organized. That would be the proper location for that folder to be put. The name should be something short and meaningful. This is going to be a second session Hello World demo. So I'm just going to use a short, meaningful one. No spaces in the name, please. And I do suggest you include this checkbox here. So now that I've got those options set up, I'm going to click on Create. And if all goes well, and if it doesn't, when you're in lab, please ask either those in the pod with you, especially somebody who's been through boot camp, or ask me. And so now what I'm looking at is a set of code within Visual Studio that's the integrated development environment. And if I have or haven't described these things to you before, I'm just going to go through and mention to you that any of these lines that have the 2 forward slashes, which is the division symbol, are comments. And just to demonstrate, you can get by on a lot less. I'm going to delete these lines by highlighting them and pressing the delete key. In addition, I'm going to get rid of these lines. And this is a very small amount of data on the screen. Hopefully it's not overwhelming you. And I want to point out that this little green triangle at the top will do a couple of things. It will interpret, basically through a process called compiling, does this make sense syntactically? And if so, Let's build some machine code that can be run on a program or on a computer. And if that works, let's link it with anything else that was built, and let's actually run the program. This is what we should see when we click on this green triangle. Here is Hello World. What I'd like you to do in lab here, and anytime you want to practice, is I'd like you to actually copy and paste this line with a Control-C if you want to, or you can right-click and say copy. And just go down a line by hitting enter. Now you'll need to be within these curly braces here. Notice that on line 5 and now on line 9 that there's a matched set of curly braces. Your code needs to go in the middle. And if I were to paste that line here, or paste another one, I can change these so that they say different things. To know it's your work, include your name, please. Now this \n actually makes it go down one line. If you didn't have it, then it would not go down one line and everything would run together. You can also put this anywhere in this particular line. So if I said hello, and I put a \n here, sorry, division symbol, that did the wrong one there. I want to do the \n. There we go. You'll notice that didn't turn purple. It'll say hello, go down a line. My name is, and like right in the middle of this, and this looks messy to you and I, but this basically means go down a line or two. And then I can continue to update this so that, and it does whatever is in here. It doesn't have to make sense. You could say, it doesn't matter. It's going to ignore it. It's within the text. And when I mean ignore is, it's just going to handle it as though it's text. You could also go down multiple lines by adding the \n to the end here. And I'd like you to say things like, hello, my name is, what you like, maybe what school you're from, a couple, 3 lines of code, and then say something like, see you around. And if this works, great. If not, talk to those other people in the room that might be able to help you figure out if there's an error in the way you wrote your code. In an ideal world, you won't have any error messages, and you'll see the output right here. This would be great for a demo. Before you turn it in, if this is a program I'm going to collect, I want to make sure I know whose it is, and I'm going to go back to the idea of a comment here. I would like to include a comment at the top that says the name of the student. I'd like to know what date you did this. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, August 58th. I don't know what calendar that is. And what does the program do? So keep it school appropriate. Make sure your name's in there. And adding those comments doesn't change anything. It's basically, if I click on the green triangle again, the same code will show up in the output. None of the comments show up. And I don't know if I mentioned, but when this message is up, if you just press the space bar, that box closes. I would like you to practice this process, typing code, getting it to work